And welcome back. In this video we are wrapping up our puzzle cube design project. Up to this point we've created our parts, we've assembled them into a cube, we've created our solution, and now we need to document it so that it is fully on paper. And to do that we use the inventor drawing files. So we're going to go from this to start creating drawings that look like this for each individual part, and a final drawing that looks like this for our final solution. So we have the exploded view and the cube on one print, and then you should have 5 individual parts prints. So let's talk about how we create these. So to begin, we're going to go back up to the new icon and click new, and we will choose Inventor IDW, the ANSI IDW drawing file. Not DWG, we use the IDW. And click Create. After we do that, we will go in and we need to make a few modifications. This sheet is actually too large. It is considered a size D sheet, and we want to change it to a size A, and I'll show you what that means. So over in your browser, if you right click on sheet 1 and go to edit sheet, we change the size from size D, which is a 34 by 22 drawing, and we change it to an A, which is an 8.5 by 11, which is standard letter paper. So that shrinks our size down. Now our title block takes up the entire space. For this project we're not going to worry about the title block. So over in our browser again, we're going to click on ANSI large, right click, and delete. Now we have our blank canvas to work with. So to do this, we're going to bring in whichever part you want to. I'm going to start with my blue part, just like in the print before. And to do that, we will click on up here underneath the Place Views tab, click on Base. We're going to grab our base view. And right now it's selecting my assembly, or not assembly, but my presentation file. To change that, I need to go up to my list over here, and if your parts are open, you can click this drop-down list and it'll be in your list right here. If your parts are not open, then you need to click on this icon, Open an Existing File. So click that, and then browse your folders to find your parts. So I'm going to click on my blue puzzle cube and click Open, and there's my part. This is my front view that I want. If it was not the correct view, your view cube is right here and you can rotate it to whatever you need, but I want this view right here. If you want it to be your isometric view, you click your house, but I do want it to be my front view, so I'm going to click front. And before you move it into place, if you're hovering over the part itself, you can click and you can drag, and we can move it so we have the proper orientation. If it's too large and it's not going to fit on your paper, you could change your scale, but most of our parts should fit, and we can keep our scale at 1:1. So I'm going to put my front view here, and then I will move my mouse up, and I will click again, and there's my top view. And I will move my mouse over to the right here, and I click again, and there's my right side view. And then I move my mouse up here, and I click again, and there's my isometric view. Inventor's awesome. It does all of the work for us. We don't have to worry about drawing these. Everything is exactly projected and lined up, and our isometric view is there too. So we don't have to worry about lining things up or any of that like we did when we were doing sketching by hand. So now that those are placed, I can click OK, and it creates my views. The only thing I want to change about these views before I move on is my isometric view. So if you hover over until you see the red box around your shape, then you will double click, and I want to edit that view so that it's in color. I want my isometric to be in color. And to do that, I go back over to my dialog box and make sure I click on Shaded. And I do that, and then click OK. It adds color. So I have my multi-view drawing, my orthographic sketch of my part, and now I need to add dimensions. Before you started creating this, you should have read through, and probably still have the document open for reference. You should have read through and had open the Intro to Dimensioning document that is posted on Google Classroom. go through and read these lists of rules for how to dimension properly. I'm not going to go through all of that in this video. I'm going to assume that you've read it and we'll reference it as you go. So for this part, to dimension, I'm going to go up to my Annotate tab now and click on Dimension. To dimension this part, we need to add all dimensions to show proper height, width, and depth of this part, and then also proper locations of each component, so that if someone were to make this, they could use this print to make this part. So I always start with my front view, and I'm going to start on the left side. Generally, you should start with a reference. So the left side is usually my reference, and then the bottom is my reference, and then the front of the part, which is either this line or this line, is my reference that I always start my dimensions from. So I'll start on my left side. Click here, and click to my first edge. I need to dimension to that edge so that I know how far away it is, 0.75. Click OK. Then I'm going to go back to my left edge, and I need to dimension out to the next edge. Click again, up, 1.5. And if you notice, these lines actually are matching up right with the view above it. So that's perfect. Inventor did that for us. You should always include an overall length dimension, or height or width dimension. So I'm not going to put this last one in here. I'm just going to put it on the bottom right here. You could either put it here or you could put it up like this if you want to. I like to put it down here for my overall dimension. And now I have this dimension, and this dimension. So I do not need to add this dimension. That's one of my rules. It'd be over-dimensioned, over-constrained if I added that in there. It's not necessary. I know this length, and I know these two, so I know whatever is left over here has to be this minus this. So that'd be a 0.75 right here, but I don't need to add that dimension. It'd be too much information, and it clutters up the print. So I'm going to move on and start doing my height dimensions now. So I'm going to go from the bottom and go up to this one and do 0.75 and click OK. And I'll go from the bottom to the top and go here and click OK. So I've got my width. There's no other features on the top that need to be dimensioned width-wise. There's no other dimensions on either side that need to be dimensioned height-wise. So the final things I need to dimension are my depth. So I'm going to show how you could do depth on both drawings here. So I'm going to do from here to here is 0.75. From here to here is 1.5, just like on my front view. And then I'll do my final depth dimension over on this view right here, just because there's space. And click OK. And ultimately, this is what your print should look like. It has just the dimensions that you need to create the part, and no more. And all of my dimensions have a reference point. So I'm referencing the left side for all of my length dimensions. I'm referencing the bottom for all of my height dimensions. And I'm referencing the front for all of my depth dimensions. And I have a front, a top, a right side view, an isometric view that's colored, and that's it. After you're done with this, you would create your final 4 parts, plus creating this one right here showing the final solution, along with the completed cube, both as isometrics. And that will be the end of